B1 family, welcome to Blacklogic. Now, we understand the economic disparities faced by Black Americans today can be directly traced back to our legacy of slavery and systematic racism in this country. Generations of Black individuals, generations of our people, generations of our ancestors have been denied the opportunity to build wealth and secure their financial futures due to the historical injustice that we have incurred. Now, you're going to read things in the comment section as well as the live chat of people who disagree with this, but they don't understand that by denying opportunities, by stealing land, that already put us 50 to 100 years behind the economic curve of status quo in America. See, support for reparation comes from various angles, including the moral obligation to right past wrongs and the potential economic benefits of investing in the Black communities, right? It's not just about compensation, family. It's about rectifying a deep-rooted injustice that occurred to our people that impact our lives today. We can look at many successful reparations programs in other countries, whether it be ours or others, that gives us the hope, that give us somewhat of a framework what could be achieved right here in the U.S. by addressing this historical injustice faced by our people by the way of reparations. And I think this is have a lot of people butthurt about this reparations movement. And I'm telling you right now, family, I'm telling you right here, right now, we should not care one iota what any other group of people thinks, say to stop our movement. So let's set the let's really set the record straight. The U.S. government has made reparation payments to several groups. Japanese Americans receive compensation. We already know about that during World War II. Native American tribes are continuing and still receiving reparations by the way of land and financial settlements and financial recurring payments that occur every year and every month. Even the victims, when we look at the victims of the Tulsa, Oklahoma riots, because here's the racial trope that people will use. Here's the racial paraphrasing that people will use. They will state that you wasn't a slave, you wasn't alive, I'm not a slave master, but we still have descendants. We still have people who was around during the Tulsa, Oklahoma riots, and they have yet to receive any reparations from America. But we have all these other groups in America receiving reparations till this day. See, we know what this is about, family. This is about race. This has nothing to do about we're not the actual slaves. This has nothing to do about that we wasn't living back then, because we have people who are still survivors of the massacre alive today, and they have yet to receive reparations. Because if we talk about cold hard facts, for over 200 years, our ancestors were enslaved, and they provided the labor that turned America into an economic powerhouse, the most powerful, richest country in the world. From the cotton fields to the railroads, from agriculture to the industry, it was Black labor that laid the foundation of American wealth. This wasn't just free labor, it was coerced. It was brutal, and it was dehumanizing. And even after slavery, what did our people face? Jim Crow laws, black codes, segregation, redlining, systems that specifically designed to keep us oppressed and impoverished. This is the only reason why these things exist. Think about the GI Bill after World War II. Because this was a massive boost for white Americans, giving them access to education, housing, and loans. But what about our Black veterans? See, they were largely excluded from this program. This isn't ancient history. This is maybe, a couple of decades ago, more like 4 or 5. But it's still within our living memory. The effects of these policies, the effects of these parts are still impacting us today, which keeps a large majority of Black Americans economically, financially, and socially behind because the disparities are glaring. Black Americans, we have higher rates of poverty. Okay. We have higher rates of poverty, lower home ownership, worse health outcomes, and less access to quality education. This is not made up. This is not a delusion. This is not an illusion. This is not a mirage. And this isn't because of lack of effort or ability or with the suspected white supremacy and those who are adjacent to white supremacy state that it is. Oh, it's just lack of your effort. It's because you guys are lazy. Oh. But we understand it's because the deck has been stacked against us for generations, for a very, very long time. And let's not forget our stolen inventions and patents, because our Black innovators and inventors have had their creations taken without credit or compensation. See, we factor in everything in the reparations conversation. We're factoring everything in the reparations package, from the traffic light, the gas mask, and even blood banks, because these are very, very few examples of Black ingenuity that have been co-opted. I just gave my son a book. It states that Africans invented everything. And of course, majority of the inventions were invented and innovated by Black Americans. You can go pick that up from Amazon. I'm not putting a plug in, family. I'm just telling you what I did. And a lot of believe that reparations are a want. Reparations are not a want. They are a need, and reparations are what is owed. They are a debt that is owed to the descendants of those who built this nation. We are owed and we need our cash payments. We are owed and we need our land restoration. Throw in tax exemptions and legislations that protect our people from suspected white supremacies and even those race soldiers with badges. Because we really have to acknowledge the historical and ongoing injustice that we face each and every day. And stop telling Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, why don't you just leave? Where are we going to go? This is our country. We have been here before the inception of America. Are you not familiar with the 4th of July when we gained independence from the Europeans? Which basically America was colonized by Europeans, and they left the degenerate class of Europeans left over here to run it. But nonetheless, we gave our independence in 1776, July 4th. And since then, we have always been needing a Black anti-hate crime bill. It's very crucial to our survival. We need actual tangibles and not empty promises. Because when you look at Germany, which paid reparations to Holocaust survivors, look at South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and these are just some models that show reparations are not just feasible, they are necessary for healing and justice. Because I know that America will never be whole until it pays what it owes. This isn't about division. It's about justice. It's about righting the wrongs of the past and creating a future where foundational Black Americans can thrive without the burden of historical injustice weighing us down. It's time for action, and it's time for our reparations. Reparations. The making of amends for a wrong one has done by paying money to otherwise helping those who have been wronged. The compensation for war damage paid by a defeated state. Reparations. a repairing or keeping and repair, the act of making amends, offering expectation, or giving satisfaction for a wrong or an injury. Something done or given as amends or satisfaction. Reparations. The making of amends for wrong or injury done. Something done or given to make amends. To make amends. You keep hearing the same word reported. And our brother Marcel Dixon, just to point out a really great reparations plan, a good foundation of what the package will include. Direct monetary payments, that's cash in your bank accounts. Tax exemption status. Now, I know there's been some, what's the representative's name? Her name is something Crockett. I forgot her first name, but she proposed making foundational Black Americans tax exempt for a period of time. But when you compare that to the Native Americans are tax exempt in perpetuity when they're on their own land that was given to them by this government. And don't forget how many don't forget how many times you're taxed. Your business is taxed before they pay you your paycheck. Then your paycheck is taxed. And then when you go out and buy commodities and agricultural or produce, then you're taxed again. When you buy a vehicle, then you're taxed again. Anything you do in this country, you're taxed. And if you think you can get away from tax, buy a house, you'll pay property tax. So we're not just being taxed 1, 2, or 3 times. We're being taxed a multitude of different times. So a tax exemption status on all accounts should be part of the reparations package. Debt cancellation, any debt that you have, be totally wiped away. I agree wholeheartedly. Because we have to pay down this debt of almost $40 trillion that our people are owed. Land grants, business grants, special class protected status. These are not the things that we are asking for. These are not the things that we are begging for. These are the things that are owed to our people. These are the things that we need. So stop having them to give you these lies. Let's look at the money factor, family. He states here the loss of opportunities. The loss of opportunities. Think about the sheer opportunities that were taken away, the sheer opportunities that were denied our people. We couldn't go and get grants. We couldn't go and get loans at the same rate, at the same interest rates as our white counterparts, even having the same credit score. The loss of opportunities to build wealth because of being forced to work unpaid. This plan calls for $40 trillion to be paid in a bond in perpetuity. The interest generated on these funds will be used exclusively for building the freedmen community infrastructures. Just as well, the Native Americans have the Enders Bureaus, which is ran by the federal government and funded by the federal government. They can fund the Freedmen's Bureau, but they should not have their hand in the decision-making and with those by the grassroots people that's part of the board. He also states here the plan calls for a total of $30 trillion to be paid as a bond in perpetuity. Each descendant of American freedmen, those foundational Black Americans, descendants of slaves, will receive a bond in perpetuity in the amount of $2.8 million. Their yearly interest to be paid, this bond will be a minimum of 6.75% each year on the rate of inflation, which is ever higher. This will result in a minimum of $189,000 or $189,540 per year per descendant. Family, you know you're not going to go to work. You're not going to work. You're going to start your own business or you're going to live a great life as you should because your ancestors paved the way for that. The number of hours as a slave was required to work per day was 12 at $15 per hour because we're, again, including inflation. So these are some of the things that we should really think about. Now, there's been all sorts of people, politicians, legislators, lobbyists talking about reparations and how should reparations be paid out. Tax exemption for Black Americans suggested by Democrats. Okay. So, of course, you haven't heard any of the sort, family. You have yet to hear any feedback on those reparations claims. Okay. Okay. It was Jasmine Crockett. That was the representative name that proposed reparations to descendants of slaves. And family, there's really nothing else that she proposed. Okay. You being tax exempt when you are the low wage worker, when you're unemployed, when you are part of the economic class, doesn't really benefit us, really doesn't give you a step up, so to speak. It doesn't assist us in any way or form. This is part of the reparations conversation. This is not the end, and this is not the beginning of the reparations conversation. Okay. So we cannot be handed these very singular, symbolizing sort of offers where it doesn't benefit the family, because it does not. Because when we look at corporations, it states here that Amazon avoided $5.2 billion in taxes, but the American people are paying taxes. The foundational Black American family is paying taxes. We can avoid paying taxes. Now, some people may argue, well, you need to set up an LLC, and you need to start up a business bank account, and you need to start charging all your things on your business credit card, so then you can write it off like the big corporations. Family, the reason why I'm showing this is because America has allowed big businesses to avoid paying taxes. And a lot of these corporations, either directly or indirectly, depending on if they change their name or the LLC name over the course of time, had a hand in enslaving our people, had a hand in the free labor that was provided. When you look at these companies here, family, and I'm not going to point any company out, I want you to look at how much they were taxed beforehand and how much they actually paid in taxes. U.S. pre-tax income, $1,200. AMD, it's a technology company. $1,200? You pay more than that, did you not? The effective tax rate, 0%. We're not going to take anything from them. And you go down the line of all of these corporate entities and how much they were taxed. Current federal income tax, a negative $2, stating that the federal government owes them money in some form or fashion. When we really analyze COVID-19, in the year 2020, the American government paid out billions of dollars in reparations to corporations, to the fact where they made up legislation called the CARES Act that was retro-dated to 2018. And a lot of these companies use that tax advantage. And don't forget, COVID-19, the pandemic, so to speak, didn't really hit hard until 2020. We knew about it in 2019, but it didn't hit hard until 2020. American Electric Power, a negative 6.4% tax rate. Family, if you're single, you're paying up in the 30 percentile. These guys are in the negative. The federal government is giving them money. This is utterly ridiculous. And you may be familiar with some of these business entities or not, like Dish Network. I know you guys are familiar with that. Maybe Ecolab and Evergy, FedEx, FistServe. I'm just naming a couple big names here, family. HP. The list goes on and on. This is a list of 55. This is only the tip of the iceberg, family. Because when I look at large corporations, I'm like, okay, well, how much did you make this year? How much did you make that year? How did you do in 2020? Because companies like Google, and I have nothing against Google, I'm just pointing out the numbers here. This is 2019. Their revenue was $160 billion. And then in 2020, they went up almost another $30 billion. 2021, another $20 billion they went up. And they went from $181 billion. And then in 2022, oh my God, excuse me, in 2021, they went to $256 billion. In 22, they went to 279, almost $280 billion. And last year, they grossed in revenue $305 billion. But they state to us that this country does not have the money to pay reparations. Well, first, if we wasn't giving reparations to corporate entities in the bailout plan, then we have the money. We have the money. We give money to Ukraine, do we not? We give money to Israel, do we not? When you go to the foreign budget website, we give money to all of those countries, do we not? It's for the security of America. It's for the infrastructure. The reason why we have to pay all this money is to keep those people at bay. And a lot of people believe this is reparations right here, family. Counseling Black student debt. Well, as we figured out, people say, well, you know, Joe Biden did something for Black people. He did something for America, which he should have done, but there's nothing specifically for foundational Black Americans, because we understand that anything we get from this country has to come in the form of reparations and not a singular bill, because when they write singular bills, the entirety of America benefits, but the entirety of America ancestors were not enslaved. They wasn't denied. Land wasn't stolen. Business wasn't destroyed. Cancel Black student debt as reparations. It states here that racial justice, particularly as it relates to police brutality. The conversation has also pushed some to engage in conversation about reparation. There are many ways reparation could be enacted. One idea to be paired with other is to cancel the student debt of Black borrowers. There are significant wealth gaps in the U.S., and there are even worse racial wealth gaps because systematic racism have left Black families with just $5, okay, $5 in wealth for every $100 in wealth that white families have. Counseling student debt for Black borrowers will go a long way to closing the gaps for those students. Again, key word, those students. Not every FBA goes to a HBCU. Not every FBA goes to college. So this will not significantly change our condition. It goes on to state, because Black students have less wealth, true. They are more likely to borrow to attend college, absolutely correct. Data shows that Black students borrow for a bachelor's degree at a rate 17% points higher than their white peers. Black students are also disproportionately more likely to afford for-profit colleges that are often predatory schools that load students up with excessive debt and show poor student outcomes. This raises a very important question. Why and how? See, Forbes has, this information, but my question is how and why? Why are Black students going to predatory lenders? Why are Black students borrowing more than which they should? That's the questions I have. 13% of all Black students enroll in for-profit college, while only 4% of white students do. Believe it or not, family, these are very, very significant numbers. Because at the end of the day, you have Black students that graduate, and they face a very discriminatory labor market that pays them less than their counterparts. So, to answer the last question, they borrow more, but they can't recoup the cost of their degrees at the same rate as others, at the same rate as people working the same job with the same experience, with the same degree from the same college, working on the same days with the same hourly wages. So let's get something straight. As I stated before, the U.S. government has handed out reparations like party favors to everyone except foundational Black Americans. Because Native American tribes, which I have nothing against them receiving money, let me be very, very crystal clear, but they have received land and financial payments. But the descendants of slaves who built this country from the ground up will receive zilch, zero, nada, donut, not a single dime. Because our ancestors who were enslaved, they transformed America into an economic powerhouse, from the cotton fields to the railroads, as I stated. But what do we have? Everybody wants to say, well, you wasn't a slave. True. You wasn't alive during Jim Crow. But what about my parents? What about their parents? See, they don't understand the word deny, limited, destroyed, killed, murder, hung, tortured. They don't understand these words, family, because what they don't understand is throughout the course of history, there has been periods of times that we can label, that has been named, that literally put Black folk in this country 400 years behind everybody else, even illegal immigrants. Because we not only had slavery, family, we had Jim Crow laws that was sanctioned by the American federal and state governments. We had black codes. We had segregation. We had redlining that affected our great-grandparents, our grandparents, and some of our parents. So when they say that you wasn't a slave, you don't belong reparation, that's because they can only think, they can't think past their hand. They can't think past what they see. They only see what we say, but they don't see what happened. We call that blissful ignorance. Because some of them know this history. And matter of fact, a lot of them know this history, but they want to fool you. They want to give you their illusion that they have concocted. A lot of these ignoramuses out here. A lot of these suspected white supremacists are ignoramuses. They're idiots. But at the same time, never doubt how your enemy can be very cunning. Because when we look back, when slavery ended, these are all the things that we faced. Because the GI Bill for those soldiers of World War II, it was a golden ticket for white Americans. It gave them everything: education, housing, loans. But our people didn't get that. We have all types of disparities in wealth and healthcare and education. We have higher poverty rates. A lot of us don't own our own homes. A lot of our parents, a lot of their parents are suffering from these illnesses, whether it be gout, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. And some people will say, well, the reason why is because they're not eating the proper food and they're not getting out getting exercise. Well, if this government pays what's owed to foundational Black Americans, then our family can go out and buy organic, and then we can go to Whole Foods, and get quality food. Because the food in America, family, let's just be real. Even some of the organic things, which is kind of due to advertising and marketing, is very, very poisonous. You got to go to people who own farms. You got to go to these farm stands. You have to maybe go to a butcher. But a lot of the food in America, I hate to say it, family, seems to be poisonous. But the things that I named here, as far as us not owning homes at the same rate as white, Asians, and Hispanics, it's really not due to the lack of our ability, to the lack of our effort. Has nothing to do with the racial trope of being lazy. You know, and I know that the system has been rigged against us for a very long time. For a very long time. So I guess when you look at it, what's the move? Are reparations a handout? Are reparations a handout, or it's a debt owed? Because when I look at some of your comments, family, I don't know if he's still in the room. I don't think he's attending here. If you aren't out anything, you aren't owed anything. Forcing the innocent to pay non-victims for the same thing that happened to neither of them is not reparation, it's looting. And these are the suspected white supremacy fools that say idiotic bullcrap, that they have no idea of what's going on. A lot of these people are from different countries, whether it be from Europe, the Caribbean, or the continent of Africa. It really doesn't matter. They don't have an idea of what's going on. And that's why I tend not to pay too much attention to it. Because we need our cash payments, do we not, family? We need our land restoration. We need our tax exemption status. And we need those laws that protect us from suspected white supremacy and race soldiers with bastards that kill us indiscriminately. Because no one faces the injustice that we have faced. And that's why we need a black anti-hate crime bill. That's all I'm saying, family. Because as I stated before, America won't be whole until it pays its debt. People are like, oh, you get some black Democratic shields, or even to a certain degree, some black Republican shields that state that if we pay reparation, that's going to divide the people. How? Oh, it's going to divide the people because there's going to be a lot of black people with the bag. There's going to be a lot of black people who are financially stable, and we don't have to depend on certain people. We don't have to depend on certain organizations. We don't have to depend on certain entities from this government. So we're going to be independent. Oh, my God. They're going to hate that. Because we don't get our reparations, family. As they say in Greece, or during the Roman times, in this life or the next, we're going to give our reparations, either for ourselves or for our descendants. We're going to give our reparations. We have to pass the baton down. It's time for some action, family. It's time for reparations. In America, it's time to pay your debt. Because I tell you, if one of your family members or someone close to you owe you some money, you're never going to let them forget unless it was a gift. Like to see everyone in the room. Jermaine Anderson, Jermaine Sullivan stated, the reparations task force should be off of that study talking. We should be on how much and when. Remember, my brothers and sisters, no reparations, no vote. No reparations, no vote. No longer sleeping. Salute to you as well. Be one, affectionate earth. Remnant reanimated, be one to you as well. No black representation. Our black politicians don't even stand up for us. The Mexicans stand for their people. The Jews stand for their people in politics. everyone does except for ours. And that's absolutely true, unfortunately, by the way of the Congressional Black Coon Caucus. No longer sleep said we have been derailed, subjugated, and been deleted before we can do. It's disgusting that they denied those surviving Black Wall Street residents. And family no longer asleep, and everyone else is, at the sound of my voice, it was more than one Black Wall Street. Let me pop them up for you very, very quickly here. But there's all other types of Black Wall Street. People believe that there's only one. There is not, family. Because because when we look at reparations, cash payments, tax exemption, and land grants, we are owed. It's not a handout. And for those who may not be familiar with the other Black Wall Streets, I think this is the only thing that the root have produced of any substance. And you guys can go read this article for yourself. The other Black Wall Streets. This was one in North Carolina. W.E.B. Du Bois talked about that. The Jackson Ward, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia district. Okay, there was many Black Wall Streets, also known as Black business districts. You had Birmingham, Alabama. Go read this, family. Boulé, Oklahoma, not just Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, so that's a really short read that you guys can go check out. But there was many of them. There was many of them. Douglas states, we threw it all. Name it, and we've been through it. Facts. Elizabeth White states that Doug Sullivan, how is not voting going to help Blacks? Elizabeth White, right here, right now, tell us how voting will help. Not only that, tell us how voting has helped. Specifically, righting the wrongs of the past. Specifically, because when I think about our brother, one of our true riders in Black empowerment, Dr. Martin Luther King, and we should never forget his words.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the Black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we're coming to get our check.
We can absolutely have the conversation, Elizabeth, if you're still in the room. We can have the conversation. I have no quarrels about it. Because as Crystal Watson says, the only helps only other groups, because history tells us ever since MLK went to Lyndon B. Johnson and forced his hand to sign that legislation for civil rights, we understand that the resounding results of civil rights has benefited immigrants, has benefited white women, has benefited everybody except for us. AJ Moore states that she can't answer the question, family. I know she can't, because if she could, guess what? I'll put an invite link inside the chat so she can come up and explain herself. But we know how that is. We got a couple of trolls in the room. I love a couple of trolls every now and again. No Longer Sleeping states, I'll never vote in another do nothing for Black Americans' presence ever again. B1 to Muscle Pain. Ms. White states that blacks got Biden elected. Trump might help blacks make some gains. So now we're voting on mights and hopes and wishes and dreams. You know what? I'll do this, family. I don't normally do this. I was going to end here a little bit early, but because Elizabeth in the room and she's stating these non-tangibles, she's stating these ill-quoted quotes that she's putting inside the checks that blacks got Biden elected. Well, first, Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, didn't all vote for Joe Biden. Some of us voted for Donald Trump. Some of us didn't vote, like myself. So with that being said, let's do this. Let's do this. Let me stop sharing this. Give me a second. Let's see if she's willing to have a conversation. There you go. Douglas says they're going to give us our check. As Emma said, we're coming for our checks. These haters of melon still delete any and all threats to their programs. Remember Nipsey Hussle. Indeed. Lewis Knowles says, why would I vote for it, Mike? Exactly my point. Exactly my point. They want us to go out here and dance a jig at the Kamala Harris and Joe Biden cookout with Billy Porter. Did you guys see the cookout? Everybody's been posting on Twitter and all the other social media platforms. Billy Porter was out here with his hair straightened, full beard, glitter dress on, and high heels. And he kissed the massa hand. Because Joe Biden stated, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And we know where Billy Porter's vote is going. No Longer Sleep said, I stopped voting after the very disappointment. I'm waiting for Elizabeth White to click that join link so you can join me here live so we can have that discussion. Crystal Watson stated that Billy Porter is embarrassing, and you are being nice, my dear. You are absolutely being nice. I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter. I try to tweet maybe a couple of times a day, and I'll show you some of the tweets that I make, family, and you guys, if you will, support the channel by going over to Twitter and subscribe there as well. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe there. But let me share this with you. Let me share some of the comments, some of the posts that I have on Twitter here. Now, this is me just posting a video. Let me get back to something. Okay, let me get back to something. There's a lot of posts that I make, and they're from this video here. This guy states right here, if you guys go here and watch this video, this guy is stating that Africans are now saying that they never sold other Africans to Europeans. And I stated, now all of a sudden, as we are delineating from the Pan-African movement and standing 10 toes down on reparations, all of a sudden, Africans never sold Africans to the Europeans. Yeah, this is not a strategic move. The reason why I stated that is because now all of a sudden, we have all of these non-foundational Black Americans that are not supportive, but they want to crowbar their way in. They want to weasel. They want to wiggle. They want to squeeze their way in to our reparations fight, to our reparations claim, to the point where they're basically cosplaying our culture. They're having Caribbean parades during Juneteenth that has nothing to do with Caribbeans. And I'm not stating that Caribbeans cannot celebrate Juneteenth. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the way they're celebrating is very disrespectful to the foundational Black American family. And if we're really going to celebrate Juneteenth, are we eating beef patties or are we eating soul food? Are we eating jerk or are we eating soul food? I'm just asking the question. Sometimes you can be, we don't go to the Caribbean parades. We don't go to the carnivals that they have in America and try to sell soul food, do we not? I'm just pointing out a point, family. But here's my Twitter page if you guys are not familiar with it. And here's another video I comment on today. Okay. They had this female rapper out here. Again, I had a comment, and again, I know males do the same thing. One of the people I follow here, Miss KK, Miss Kester, she says, we got to cast this spirit away. I stated that what the F is going on with our women. They are the foundation of the Black American family. Unfortunately, I don't see any wives or mothers in the video. I see women who can bear children but not raise them. It's both men and women. We need to change this family quick. So I was giving you guys a quick taste of some of the posts that I make on Twitter. If you guys want to follow me there as well, please do. And let's see what Ms. White has to say. I'm not a troll. I like knowing what you're thinking. We all vote for what we hope to get. Blacks got civil rights. Oh my God. Ms. White, could you please just click the link that I posted for you to join so we can have a civil discussion, so we can have some sort of structure and decorum about the conversation? Because when you say blacks got civil rights, when in any of the civil rights legislation, it states that black civil rights. Can we look that up, family? Let me end with this, because even though she's not a troll, she's trolling. Just because someone is not a troll doesn't mean that they're trolling. Let's look up civil rights. Let's look up the Civil Rights Act, because maybe and there was many amendments to the Civil Rights Act, but we will look at the Civil Rights Act in which it was written. Okay. It states here that, and this is from the U.S. Department of Labor.gov, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. That's everybody. You cannot judge somebody and prevent them from getting a job or opportunity or a loan based on if they're white, black, Hispanic, and Asian. You can't do that. Whether they are Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or Buddhist, we can't do that. Whether they are male or female, and you guys can add in all the other letters, or they're from another country, we can't do that according to the Civil Rights Act. That is not just for black people, it's for everyone. Oh, no, go ahead. I will not post your picture. You do not have to do video. It can be simply audio. Again, click the link and you can have the option yourself. Let's give her a minute or two to see if she can join us here. And again, Ms. White, you do not have to use your video. It would be simply audio. Giving her a second, because I'm here, family. I just don't have anything set up today. I'm here. I'm waiting. Douglas states that all whites known as King saying I have a dream. Very few blacks ever heard of him saying we're coming for our checks. Indeed. All right, family. I think I've waited long enough. Looks to seem as though that Miss Elizabeth White is a no-show and no audio. No longer says she's choosing to be like this. Okay, I don't see her in the back studio or anything. She has not clicked the link, and that is as I have thought. But anyway, you guys have a great and wonderful evening, and I see you guys on the next one. Be one.